We are the team one, and we are talking about iron deficiency is not the main contributor to anemia in older Mexican adults, according to the results of the 2018 and 2019 National Health and Nutrition Survey. For introduction, we are telling that in Mexico, according to the 2018 National Dynamic Demography Survey, there are 50.4 million older adults, representing the 12.3% of the total population. Older adults experience physical and social change associated with age that make them vulnerable to malnutrition, particularly micronutrients deficiency. Iron deficiency is the most common and prevalent nutrition disorder worldwide, and older adults are among those affected. Iron deficiency in older adults can result from inadequate diet, iron intake, malabsorption, excessive loss, or combination of these factors. Iron deficiency without anemia is also associated with health problems such as cardiac disease, cognitive declines, and anemia in older adults can be to disease chronic such as diabetes, hypertension, kidney fails, and obesity. Anemia is a public health problem, and it is necessary to monitor all these trends.
The main objective of this study to describe and update the prevalence of ID and anemia as subsample of older adults who participate in the 2018-2019 National Health and Number Nutrition Survey of Mexico, as well as to characterize other associated sociodemographic factors. Additionally, this study aims to highlight the change between these two indicators from the 2019 Ensanut to the 2018-2019 Ensanut. Materials and methods study design and popular this population. This is a cross-sectional study based on information of 2,902 participants representing 50,593,500. All of them participate in the 2018-2019 Insano, in which complete serum data were analyzed.
Biochemical determination. Hemoglobin was assigned weight capillary blood using a portal photomer. Anemia was created by altitude adjusted age, levels and iron deficiency by Fahrenheit menos 15 mg de iron deficiency anemia IDA was identified when anemia and ED coexist by statistical analysis. Frequency with 95% confidence intervals were used. Vibrate logistic regression was applied to assess the relationship between anemia and eating. And adjusted models were used to define models included vital suits and sex, age, BMI, type of housing, city, region, socioeconomic status, diabetes, kidney, kidney failure, and elevated CRP levels. The analysis were performed in the
Iron deficiency. Iron deficiency occurs when the body does not have enough iron to meet its needs, especially to produce hemoglobin, the protein that carries oxygen in the blood. It is the most common nutritional deficiency in the world and can affect people of all age. Although it is especially common in women, older adults, and people with chronic diseases. Main cause of iron deficiency in adults: insufficient iron intake, chronic inflammation, diseases such as diabetes, kidney failure, obesity, or rheumatoid arthritis, elevate hepcidin, a hormone that blocks the absorption and release of iron. Kidney failure decreases the production of erythropoietin, a hormone that stimulated the production of red blood cells. Kidney failure decreases the production of erythropoietin, a hormone that stimulated the production of red blood cells. Obesity. Adipose tissue generates inflammatory cytokines that alter iron metabolism. Cancer of autoimmune diseases. They also increase inflammation and hinder the use of iron. The relationship between anemia and iron deficiency is direct and very close. Iron is essential for producing hemoglobin, that protein in red blood cells that carries oxygen. This leads to a decrease in the ability to transport oxygen, which causes the typical symptoms of anemia, fatigue, weakness, uh, balance, shortness of breath, among others.
Sociodemographic information. Sociodemographic information was collected through ad hoc questionnaires. Mexico was divided into three regions: North, Center, and Mexico City, and South. Indigenous ethnicity was defined by the head of household with knowledge of indigenous language. Housing was classified as urban, 22,500 inhabitants, or rural, 2,500. A household wealth index (HWI) was generated through principal components analysis, including housing conditions, materials, ownership of appliances, and number of rooms. The first component explains 51% of the variability. Value 4.078. The standardized index was divided into tertiles. The first represents the poorest conditions. Anthropometry. Weight and height data were collected using validated and standardized methods. Body mass index (BMI) was calculated as total weight in kilograms divided by the square of the height in meters. BMI classification was based on the World Health Organization's (WHO) cutoff points for adults.
Results. Table 1 shows the characteristics of Mexican older adults with serum information. 54% of the older adults were in the 60 and 69 age group and were women. 6% spoke an indigenous language. 28.4% had CRP levels above 5 mgl. 27 had diabetes and 3% had kidney failure. In a subsample of other adults, 24% were taking some form of nutritional supplement. Factors associated with anemia. Anemia was presented in 28.4%, 95% CE 25.9, 30.9 of OA. Vivarity analysis showed that the prevalence of anemia was significantly higher in those of older relative age, 19 years as older, as well as in those with CRP5, MGL, or a diagnosis of diabetes, kidney failure, or AD, and in those with consumed supplements, 0.05. Compared to their counterparts, in contrast, a lower prevalence of anemia was observed in those in whom that aforementioned characteristics remained associated with anemia, showing similar results.
Relative age, living in urban areas, living in the southern region, and a diagnostic of diabetes or kidney failure were all conditions associated with higher odds for anemia. A marginally significant association was observed in the presence of CRP levels greater than 5 milligrams per liter and ID. In contrast, a higher HWI and obesity were characteristics associated with lower odds for anemia compared to their respective HWI, tertile counterparts, and normal BMI. In this table, we can see what I was said.
Discussion. Anemia and iron deficiency
a reversible condition at the population level in older adults. Anemia is a predictor of a worse short-term prognosis compared to iron deficiency and is associated with higher and healthcare costs. Therefore, the burden of an anemia in older adults could overwhelm health services if no action is taken. These results may have implications for research and public health. First, clinical research could provide a better understanding of the potential cause of anemia in older adults that are difficult to measure at the population levels. Second, the dietary policies are needed to achieve optimal nutrition in older adults to prevent not only micronutrients deficiencies but also chronic comorbidities that affect healthy aging. Finally, intervention studies with integrative approaches are needed to promote healthy aging in the Mexican population. There are still several research gaps that prevent adequately addressing the problem of anemia and micronutrient deficiency in Mexico. In older adults, the causes of anemia are still not fully known. Furthermore, the cutoff values used to define anemia, iron deficiency, and ferritin adjustment factor for inflammation were not originally designed for the older adult population. Therefore, long, longitudinal studies are needed to define the optimal cutoff value for an anemia and iron deficiency for this age group that improve the prognosis of certain outcomes associated with healthy aging.
Conclusion. In conclusion, the results of the supplements of older adults participating in the study show that anemia affects a high proportion of older adults, and that iron deficiency is not the main contributor to this privilege of anemia. Chronic comorbidities such as diabetes and kidney failure contribute to the problem of anemia. More studies are needed to understand the possible modifiable cause of anemia in older Mexican adults.